On this Monday night, tariff relief. The federal government's plans to support the East Coast.
We are building Canada strong.
And the struggling aluminum industry. Deadly shooting spree. Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a busy bus stop in Jerusalem. The Israeli Prime Minister's response. A 4-year manhunt in New Zealand ends in a gunfight. The fugitive father shot dead, and the discovery of his 3 missing children. Plus, gambling with their future.
Youth are naturally drawn towards risk-taking behaviors.
A warning about the consequences of youth sports betting.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. The federal government is releasing new details of its plan to transform the Canadian economy. On Friday, the Prime Minister announced plans to spend billions of dollars to support businesses and industries hit hard by U.S. tariffs. And we now know where more of that money is going. The government held a couple of announcements today. First, in Atlantic Canada, where Prime Minister Mark Carney announced funding to help businesses on the East Coast pivot away from their southern neighbor. So how far will that money go? Our Heidi Petracek begins our coverage tonight.
Together, stronger, we are building Canada strong.
With the St. John's shipyard as a backdrop, the announcement felt like a federal election campaign repeat.
We can create that rising tide that lifts all boats.
Meant to bolster national pride in the face of ongoing tariffs. Now those sentiments coming with cash for businesses in Atlantic Canada feeling the financial pressure.
It's about getting people to work. It's about jobs, and it's about money in people's pockets.
Companies on the East Coast will be able to draw from a $1 billion tariff response fund, $80 million earmarked for a region where most exporters sell to the U.S. and where the shellfish industry is being hit with Chinese tariffs. The money meant to help firms leverage new technology and find new customers.
And for a small business in particular, these are big challenges. The key here is to make sure that money is well spent, that we target on where we can get the biggest value.
But as for who exactly will qualify and how long it will take to get funding,
the devil's going to be in the details. Are the programs going to be well adapted to the smaller types of firms? And is it going to be encompassing enough to reach the support where it needs to be?
It's all part of $5 billion in federal spending intended to soften the short-term blow of tariffs and transform the Canadian economy. Money that has to come from somewhere, Carney pointing to his first budget as Prime Minister.
Focusing on reducing waste, reducing unnecessary federal spending, reducing the duplication in federal spending.
I am willing to concede that the federal government has grown probably way too fast over the last 10 years. And that they are redundancies, but I question how this is going to take place.
Those details and that budget expected this fall.
This announcement came at an interesting time for Newfoundland and Labrador, which has several major projects on Ottawa's fast-track list, and where a provincial election is due to be called any day now. The province's Liberal Premier, John Hogan, was at the event and voiced his support for the Prime Minister and vice versa, both now under pressure to succeed. Jeff.
Heidi Petracek in Halifax. Thanks, Heidi. More tariff relief was announced in Quebec today. The aluminum sector is set to receive hundreds of millions of dollars, but Industry Minister Mélanie Joly said her government still has no plans to match the Trump administration's 50% sectoral tariffs. Taria Isri reports.
Nearly all of Canada's aluminum is produced in Quebec and subject to damaging U.S. tariffs. So the federal government is trying to soften the blow.
It's that vision of a new industrial era that we're putting into place today.
Industry Minister Mélanie Joly assured the sector it will receive its share of a $5 billion relief fund.
At the end of the day, we will be able to work on us and work on our own market.
She did not provide an exact number, but says it will be in the hundreds of millions.
We ship 56,000 tons per week of aluminium to the U.S. We lost tremendous amounts of money.
On Friday, Prime Minister Mark Carney rolled out a tariff relief package.
We will build Canada strong.
Monday's announcement in Montreal is a drilling down of those measures, including the $5 billion Strategic Response Fund to help affected sectors, a buy Canadian policy to ensure the federal government purchases domestically, immediate liquidity relief with $5 million in loans to small and medium businesses, and a regional tariff response initiative worth $1 billion over 3 years. But there's no plan to match the Trump administration's tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. The U.S. hit both sectors with 50% duties back in June, but Ottawa's counter tariffs are only 25%.
We need to tariff all American steel coming into Canada that we can produce. So why did they get a free pass?
Jolie says Canada is still focused on its immediate goal of removing the tariffs. But the series of support measures are another sign the government is bracing for the long-term impacts of a protracted trade war. Jeff?
Taria Isri in Montreal. Thanks, Taria. House Democrats have just released a screenshot of what appears to be a letter signed by President Donald Trump to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, a letter Trump has long claimed does not exist. The letter appears to feature an imagined conversation between Trump and Epstein, marking his 50th birthday in 2003. It's written inside the drawing of a woman's body. Trump's signature is located just below the hips. The letter reads in part, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey. That a pal is a wonderful thing, and may every day be another wonderful secret." The letter was obtained by the House Oversight Committee investigating records related to Epstein. The White House calls it defamation, claiming it's not Trump's signature. Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal over its earlier reporting of that letter. 6 people were killed in Jerusalem after 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a busy bus stop. The gunmen were also shot dead. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is now vowing to hunt down anyone who helped them. As Redmond Shannon reports, the attack comes as Israel warns Hamas has one last chance to release the hostages.
Running for their lives in morning traffic. Israeli police say 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop in the north of Jerusalem. At first, people did not understand what was happening until someone suddenly shouted, "Terror attack," and people started running, says this man. A soldier and armed civilians acted quickly to kill the attackers, but not before commuters were killed. A pregnant woman was among the injured. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the scene and promised a response. He said Israeli forces have surrounded the West Bank villages where the attackers came from and will apprehend anyone who helped them. Attacks like this in fortified Jerusalem are not as common as they once were. A rabbi among the victims mourned in the capital Monday. Killings of innocents are, however, a daily event in Gaza. These sisters, aged 5 and 2, dead after what medics say was an Israeli airstrike on a tent. More and more people in Gaza City will have to live in tents after Israel destroyed another large building, this time giving residents 3 hours' notice. Netanyahu calls them terror towers. Regardless of whether they were used by Hamas, their destruction makes Gaza City even less livable as Israeli troops move to occupy all of the city and force its residents out, ignoring international calls to stop.
Israel has a case to answer before the International Court of Justice, and the evidence continues to mount.
The latest US proposal to end the war matches Israel's demand that Hamas release all remaining hostages. Last month, the militant group had proposed a partial release. Hamas says of the US plan that it is prepared to negotiate. Jeff?
Redmond Shannon in London. Thanks, Red. The RCMP have arrested 3 men for allegedly helping a convicted murderer to escape from a BC prison in 2022. 38-year-old Robbie Al-Khalil has been one of Canada's most wanted since his escape. He was convicted of 2 murders in Toronto and Vancouver back in 2012. 3 men have now been charged for their roles in his escape. Police say their investigation also led to charges in an unrelated murder plot in BC.
While conducting the investigation into the escape of Robbie Al-Khalil, our investigators uncovered a further murder conspiracy that was about to occur that they prevented.
Sources told Global News late last week that Al-Khalil has been arrested in Qatar, but the RCMP said they cannot confirm those reports. A manhunt that had gripped New Zealand for nearly 4 years came to a violent end. Police shot and killed fugitive Tom Phillips. He'd been on the run since December of 2021 with his 3 children. They disappeared from a community on New Zealand's North Island and were thought to be hiding somewhere in the remote wilderness. As Mike Armstrong explains, the children have been found safe, but the police investigation isn't over yet.
A case that captivated a country came to a close not far from where it started, in the way no one wanted. A police officer was seriously wounded and fugitive Tom Phillips killed in a shootout. New Zealand's Prime Minister calls this a somber day for the country.
I doubt there is a New Zealander who has not followed to some extent the story of the abduction of the children.
Now, Phillips disappeared in 2021 over a custody dispute with his wife. He took his 2 daughters and son. They were just 5, 6, and 8 years old. There have been sightings every several months. This was the most recent from August. Tom Phillips caught on a security camera breaking into a store in the middle of the night with one of his children. They were stealing milk. It was confirmation the fugitive was still in the area and police increased patrols. But Phillips had shot at someone in the past who tried to stop him, so police knew he was armed and dangerous.
Our concern is that Tom will pose a risk to anyone that tries to stop the way he's living his lifestyle with his children.
Overnight, there was another robbery called into police believed to be Phillips. An officer laid down spikes on the road. Phillips ran over them on an ATV and blew out his tires. The officer was then shot in the head.
Soon after, a second patrol unit arrived and has engaged the offender, and he has died at the scene.
One of the 3 missing children was with Phillips on the ATV. That child was recovered safely. A few hours later, police found the other 2 in a hidden and remote campsite.
I can confirm that the children are well and uninjured.
Now, there are questions about why Phillips seems to have been venturing out of his hiding spot more often recently. One theory is he may have had a falling out with someone who'd been helping him, and he no longer had that support. Well, the investigation continues, and along with it, the delicate reunification of the children with their mother. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
An Australian woman convicted of murdering 3 of her husband's relatives by serving them poisonous mushrooms was sentenced today to life in prison. Erin Patterson was found guilty in July of 3 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. In 2023, she invited her estranged husband's parents, along with his aunt and uncle, for lunch. She then served them beef Wellington containing the poisonous death cap mushrooms. Only 1 person survived. The 50-year-old will be unable to apply for parole for 33 years. The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada appears in court. Coming up, the consequences for Romana Didelot and her followers. Deadly clashes erupted in Nepal's capital today. Tens of thousands of demonstrators protested outside Parliament after the government blocked access to some of the world's biggest social media platforms, including Facebook, X, and YouTube. The Nepalese government claimed the social media companies had failed to register or crack down on fake news. Police opened fire as demonstrators surrounded them, hurling bricks. Some broke through a barricade and made their way into the government complex. At least 19 people were killed and more than 100 others wounded. French lawmakers have ousted their prime minister and toppled the government. France's Prime Minister François Bayrou triggered the confidence vote in a bid to win support for his government's budget, which included spending cuts, a freeze on social benefits, and scrapping 2 public holidays. But it was overwhelmingly rejected. French President Emmanuel Macron now has to find his 5th prime minister in less than 2 years after another embarrassing defeat. A conspiracy theorist who has been leading followers from a compound in rural Saskatchewan has been freed on bail. Romana Didelot was arrested Friday after police raided the decommissioned school where the group had been living. Heather Yerkes West reports on the conditions of her release and reaction from residents.
The self-proclaimed Queen of Canada has been released on bail with conditions following her arrest last week. 50-year-old Romana Didelot faces 2 charges, breaching a court order and attempting to intimidate a justice system participant after the compound she and her followers had been living in was raided by RCMP.
This is really uncharted territories. I think this is the most trouble they've ever been in.
A total of 16 people were arrested last Wednesday after police searched and seized 13 imitation semi-automatic handguns and ammunition from the site of an old decommissioned school in Richmond, Saskatchewan. Everyone was initially released from custody Thursday, returning to the school where Didelot spoke exclusively to Global News. What are your goals here at the Kingdom of Canada compound?
Well, if anyone would like to understand what Queen Romana is all about, I would encourage everyone to read the royal decrees.
Didelot and another man were later re-arrested before public health officials declared the compound unfit for occupation, ordering residents to leave or face a fine of up to $75,000.
I was happy to see it. I hope this is the end of them being there in Richmond.
Didelot and her Kingdom of Canada followers first moved to the tiny farming community in the fall of 2023, many coming from Ontario, where in August of 2022, Didelot called on her followers to arrest members of the Peterborough Police. In that incident, 4 people, not including Didelot, were charged.
So I don't know exactly the risk level they pose, but I always take threats seriously.
As a condition of her release, Didelot has been ordered to remain at a residence in Regina. RCMP say their investigation continues. Heather Yurex, West Global News, Calgary.
High risks, no rewards. Still ahead, a new warning about sports betting ads and youth. A destructive hailstorm left its mark on southern Alberta last month. Take a look at this. NASA shared a pair of satellite images of the area, one taken before the August 20th storm and another a few days later. The golf ball-sized hailstones left a massive scar between Calgary and Medicine Hat. It's about 200 kilometers long and 15 kilometers wide. The Alberta government is altering its controversial school book ban. The province is now revising restrictions to only include what it calls visual depictions of sexual acts. Written words will no longer be part of the ban. The move comes after Edmonton's public school board verified a list of 200 books that would need to be removed under the previous measures. They included classics like Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale and Alex Walker's The Color Purple. School boards have until the end of next month to submit a list of literary materials they intend to remove. Some of Canada's top doctors are now calling for restrictions on sports betting ads. They say those ads are contributing to a generation of youth with problem gambling. An editorial in the Canadian Medical Association Journal says sports betting ads appear regularly on television and online, and gambling sites are far too easy to access. Eric Sorensen reports on the risks.
Did you ever bet?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah?
Yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Artin
Nobaknija is 20. He bets on sports and he sees all the ads.
Yes, a lot. There's a lot of ads.
In the Stanley Cup playoffs, on the boards, added digitally on broadcasts, you can't miss them. The University of Bristol found that during the Stanley Cup finals, viewers encountered messages from betting firms on average almost 4 times every minute. Even those who don't bet see the problem.
How available it is. So you can do it on your phone, you can do it on the laptop.
And doctors say before they're 19 and legally allowed to bet, youngsters are inundated by gambling ads.
Young people are impressionable. In the teen years, youth are naturally drawn towards risk-taking behaviors. These kids get sucked in to what they see represented in gambling ads.
What they first saw were Connor McDavid and others promoting sports betting. When Ontario banned the use of athletes in such ads, the Stars then endorsed responsible betting.
Dude, did you know BetMGM has responsible gambling tools so you don't get carried away?
But experts say those ads don't really help. Problem gambling is increasing the risk of suicide, crime, and substance abuse.
Bet responsibly, that is nothing more than an advertisement for gambling.
Sports betting isn't going away, but Charlebois and others are calling for restrictions on ads in Canada till later in the evening on TV, so minors are less likely to see them. Adil Alim doesn't bet, but sees the hook from advertising.
If you see that, you can get attracted to it, because they show how easy it is to make money, and then you can just fall into the trap, and then it's actually not easy money. You end up losing.
And before they can legally gamble, even teenagers can find a way, says Artin.
They get their money from their parents and they waste the money basically.
Doctors say gambling can be especially hard to resist for youth when there are so many companies encouraging you and so many ways to bet on sports. Eric Sorensen, Global News, Toronto.
Running under the radar. Up next, the Prime Minister turning heads on the trails. Well, the Prime Minister isn't just running the country. Mark Carney was also spotted running a race on the Forest Trail this past weekend. The 60-year-old experienced marathoner took part in a 26-kilometre long-distance trail race in central Ontario on Saturday. Out of 120 runners, he finished in 58th place, clocking in at 3 hours and 45 minutes. And in the UK, 60,000 people took part in the Great North Run half marathon on Sunday. At the end, participants were given medals that were supposed to show a map of Newcastle upon Tyne, where the event took place. Problem is, they got it wrong. It actually shows neighbouring Sunderland and the River Wear to the south. Organisers apologised for the gaffe, saying, "We're sorry." And some sad news to tell you about from the music world. Rick Davies, co-founder and lead singer of the British band Supertramp, has died.
Take a look at my girlfriend. She's the only one I got.
A statement on the band's website says Davies died Saturday after being diagnosed with blood cancer more than 10 years ago. Davies formed Supertramp with his partner Roger Hodgson back in 1970. And from there into the early 80s, they made their name through many international hits, including Breakfast in America. Davies was 81. And that is Global National for this Monday night. I'm Jeff Semple. We leave you tonight with a special lunar event that unfortunately wasn't visible here in Canada. A total lunar eclipse, also known as a blood moon, cast a red hue over parts of Oceania, Asia, Africa, and Europe. The rare phenomenon happens when a full moon passes through the Earth's shadow, darkening the moon with a red tint. The next blood moon will be visible here in Canada in 2026. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here again tomorrow. Have a great night.